Hey, what's up, guys? It's Luke. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're doing great. Hope you continue to do great. Thanks so much for joining me on another video. And this one is a topic that I've been thinking about for a long time, wanting to talk about and put something out there for other people. It's something that I've actually deliberated on a lot. Mainly, we're talking about earlier stages of my music making career because I've gone through some evolution of the way that I think since then. But this is something that I would have really benefited to hear more about, straight from the source of people who I respected in the music scene, artists that I look up to as, my favorites and inspirational. The topic is referencing. And by that, I mean using other people's work to influence your work in some way. And there's many different ways you would want to use other people's, in this case, other people's songs. And we're going to get into that today. Before we talk more about that, I would like to remind you to please like and subscribe if you're into me. If you like me, like if you made one of those little fortune teller origamis and then you moved it enough times and then you flipped a corner out and it had my name on it. So subscribe to the channel and throw me a like and then throw me a follow on Instagram. I'll have the link in the description. So I'm kind of just going to freeball a little bit on this topic. This is something that, like I said, I've put a lot of thought into, and a lot of it was kind of frustrating because I wasn't sure what to do. I guess what I mean is starting out as an artist when you don't have enough experience, you really don't have anywhere to start making songs that actually stack up to other people's songs who have been doing it for a long time and who are established. Yet, you assume that there's this stigma attached to copying other people. Now, I would be surprised if other people don't think this too. I want to hear your guys' thoughts and if you've been through this yourself, because who knows, maybe people don't go through this like I did. But this is like a kind of a moral issue, kind of an intellectual one, where you think that if you use other people to inspire too many elements of your music, that you're cheating them. And it's frustrating though, because if you don't refer to other people's music at all, you don't have any reference point on what works in the music business. You don't have a reference point on how to mix your songs, how to master them. You don't have a reference point on arrangement. That's another issue. So I guess kind of the purpose of this video, we'll see if I get into any more depth about these things, but the purpose is to encourage anybody who feels this way about referencing and who is afraid to reference because they think it's cheating. This video is meant to help you reference and don't be afraid of referencing, because you need benchmarks to know where to go and to know how to do things well. So for example, we're looking at my my template. When you boot up Ableton to a fresh project, this is what it looks like. Some of this, and I will go over this separately, especially if anybody wants that specifically. Some of this needs to change. I've been meaning to change it for a while, but as you can see, there's a group at the bottom entitled References, mainly inside projects. You want to use these for mixing, but I'll talk about other applications. So, pro tip, you want to send the reference group to external out, because if you have shit on your master track, it's going to, and these are already mastered songs, so they're just going to get crushed by your limiters and all that. So leave these on external. So let's say you're just starting out making tech house. I was into house for a long time, so that's basically what I was doing. Was I was starting out, and I didn't understand arrangement too well. Like, I knew the elements of the tunes, and I kind of knew how to stack them up on my own, but I didn't know how many bars a drop should last, how many bars a B section should last, how many bars a breakdown should last, all that. What you really need to do, if you realize that that applies to you and you also don't really understand the ins and outs of your genre or whatever yet, you should really download a song that you like a lot. And in some people's eyes, what you should do is download a song that has already done very well and, let's say charted number 1 on Beatport. Put it in your reference track here. And another way that you can do this too, and kind of study, is you up here you right click and add a flag, add a locator. And so whenever there's a different phrase and whenever, elements are added or taken away, what you can do is create a flag up here and then say, okay, this is when kick and bass, have their filter taken off. And then same goes for drops with, lead synthesizers or whatever. You can add these markers to dictate when these other songs utilize those instruments. And then that can give you an idea of how long your phrases need to be, how long your sections, drops, intros, all that needs to be, without going back and forth from listening and guessing. So that's kind of the first tip, is that if you need help understanding how arrangement works, definitely put some references in here and start studying them by putting these markers in and labeling what is in each phrase, what's in each section, and then, what's taken away. So give yourself a sense of how songs progress that way. Another reason why you want to be referencing music is because you're going to have those moments like everybody does, like I did, and like, every professional producer did at one point. You're going to say to yourself, why does my song not sound as good as a song that you respect and one that you listen to and that you like? Well, it helps to have a good example nearby. So like, I'm just going to, identify the fact that I've got a Flume track in here. Obviously, if you haven't heard it, you should. This is the difference with Toro. And then I, of course, have the Georgia Smith Predator remix. Don't want to feel you, don't want you. I highly recommend both of these songs. They are both some of the best at what they do. So like, if you want to create melodic garage music, definitely reference this song, especially if there's vocals in what you want to make. And then, if you want to be messing with some quirky drum and bass, this Flume song is something to check out too. I'm just using these as examples because these are both songs that I respect very highly. They're things that I like. And, in some cases, I would want to really pick apart what makes these songs what they are and figure out what I need to do with my sounds to get them closer to those. Another thing is just to throw out there, and people fall, I'm sure, on a spectrum of this. I don't know exactly how much I agree with it. I don't know. It just sounds kind of cynical, but there are no original ideas, right? You are basically, as a musician or artist of any type, taking an idea that has already been around and putting your twist on it. You are taking, because I mean, especially when you look at EDM and the format of songs and the way that the arrangement is all so similar, the framework has already been made for you. You are just making your version of it, and you're doing what you can to put your identity into that. And that's what really successful artists do, is they just do a lot with the frameworks that they've been given, because it's still music. It still has drums, chords, melodies, and bass. I mean, it's the same parameters. They're just different ideas that have been like sifted through each individual that have come out the other end as original ideas. It's so hard to choose words around this, because how original are they? Well, what we're really after is just putting our flavor on something, and that's how music progresses. So another thing is, and this point goes two ways. It would be valuable to practice recreating songs as a direct copy. So you take a song that you really respect and that you really want to live up to, you make that song exact. Now, another dimension to that is when you start making that song, when you start recreating it to really see what comprises it, you can take those elements that you've made. So let's say you're copying a synth patch. Once you've done the work to replicate that synth patch, you can use that and just make your own bass lines with it, or make your own chords or melodies. So I guess the point I'm making is, if you recreate a song with the intention of it being identical to the reference track, you very likely will be inspired by the fact that you have made sounds that stack up to that song, and you go right ahead and make your own version of it, which you can make as an original song if you just put your own spin on it, rather than, it's not even a remix of that song. You're actually making a new song if you recognize the elements and you just put it together in your own kind of creative way. So, especially when it comes to mixing, and if you've been producing for a while, you know this, that when you listen to your music over and over, it starts to sound ridiculous. Your frame of reference just gets super out of whack. So this is a lesson everybody needs to learn at some point. You may have already learned it yourself, that you just need to step away sometimes. You can't do the same thing over and over for too long, because pretty soon you're going to get burnt out, and your ears and your brain need a break from the atmosphere that you've put it in. So when you keep listening to the same mix over and over, you're just going to get so confused and tunnel vision that you need to take a break. Along with that, you might think that after listening for hours on end that your song is brilliant, because that's the only frame of reference you have, is that one song of yours that you've been listening to. You don't know what a chart topper, you don't know what, you might have forgotten how much wider or how much more depth, one of your favorite songs that you're trying to go after, kind of stacking up to sounds like. That's why it's important to keep references in your projects sometimes. And this depends on your goals, right? Like if you don't want to make good music, then you don't have to do this. You can just dick around and see what happens. But I guess another way of explaining this is, music is subjective, right? But people who devote their lives to making music that people receive well enough to make music their career or whatever, it helps to make the process as objective as possible. And a way that you can do that is by comparing things that have succeeded with your music. Because if you just go all the way on the subjective spectrum and you're just like, I don't need to refer to anything else, any other artists, any other music, chances are it's going to be very difficult for you to create mixes, especially mixes, but create songs that will stack up and will sound good compared to the music that you're used to listening to on the radio that's done by groups of professionals, long-time mix engineers, master engineers, professional producers, etc. So, and then when I talk about mixing, right, like, especially once you start getting your feet under yourself a little bit and you know how to affect the different elements of a mix, what you need to do is keep some references inside your projects that, represent a little bit what you're working on in those in your project there, and periodically sample the reference track you have, and then that'll give you a instance of, oh, my drums are in mono and they should be wider, or my mix sounds totally mono and my reference sounds huge. So you would figure out, all right, which elements do I need to make super wide and which things need to stay inside? What frequency response am I missing? All these different elements you need to make sure are being spread throughout your frame in the right way. And by the right way, I mean the way that somebody else has very successfully done it, especially in your own mind. If you look up to a producer, then you should use them as your reference. Another thing too comes with like mastering. If you wanted to know how many LUFS a Flume song is, then you can just put it in your DAW and then use your loudness meter. It's weird. See, like, it's pretty interesting to me that this song seems to be mastered pretty quiet. It's not even peaking at 0 dB. It's at -3, and we're at almost -10 LUFS. And I took this from the video, but I'm assuming it's not that much different on streaming. Anyway, there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of rules. Oh shit, my face was probably covering the readout. But yeah, so there are rules sometimes that we are taught by some of the people that went to stricter schools on the matter. Some of the older guys, they're spreading some rules that they say are, the end all be all. Like, this is an example of something that kind of challenges your assumptions sometimes. Like, everybody in EDM is making loud masters, the loudness war, blah, blah, blah. This is -3 dB. That's a data point for you to be like, okay, well, Flume is the GOAT and he doesn't have that loud of a master. That's a good, that's a good data point to sort of realize that, or realize what rules you might need to question, things like that. Anyway, as I said, the main idea is use references to your advantage. Do not be afraid to copy certain things about other people's ideas, because those weren't original in the first place. You don't need to be worried about stealing the arrangement to a tech house song, because that is just so played out that, whoever you're referencing has stolen it from somebody else, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, because they've made their own tweak on it, and they've made it their own in enough of a way that, it's their own song, even though it has the same arrangement, it has the same synth, patches or whatever, because there's standards, sometimes. But yeah, so if you were in my shoes, when I was really going through this and thinking to myself, I shouldn't be referencing so closely because, that's cheating. Like for me, it's kind of it was also a pride thing where I wanted to feel like my music was so original, and that whenever I succeeded from my music, that it was 100% me, that's another kind of ego trip that some of us go on, is like, it has to be all me. It has to come from me. So that's cool. I think it's just, you do need to understand that things can be yours. I guess it takes less than you think to make a song yours. You'll start to develop styles and things that really speak about who you are. Without even realizing it, you will start to make songs your own, even if you're following the frameworks of, other people's arrangements or whatever. So yeah, I hope this has changed your mind in some way. If you are already past this stage, then good for you. Good luck as you proceed. If you're at this stage, then those are the people I really hope I reached. I'm sure people go through this in different degrees all the time. But yeah, make sure that you are keeping your horizons open on what quote-unquote good music is, so that way your music can stack up to that. Anyway, once again, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, if you enjoy my videos at all, if you like me as a person. Great, appreciate that. I think that's all for this one. I might revisit this at some point. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know where you're at on your artist journey. I'd love to hear about it. Other than that, love you guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.